Hey everybody, I'm John, and this is Blind Whiskey Reviews. Hey everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today here on Blind Whiskey Reviews, the most honest reviews on YouTube. As always, if you're liking these videos, please hit that subscribe button down below and hit the bell notification next to it. That way you'll know every time I'm uploading a new video and every time I'm starting a new live stream. Today I'm bringing you a cool whiskey, and I think this whiskey is a little bit cool because I reached out to this distillery to see if they'd be willing to send me something to do a review of for you guys, because I'm trying to do a little bit more local stuff for you. I want to bring you a few things from California. There's been a lot of distilleries opening up here of late in California. I'd love to find out what these distilleries are doing and if they're doing anything interesting. So I've reached out to a few different distilleries here in the state to see if they'd be willing to send me some products, and I've gotten a few back, so I'm going to be excited to be doing a few of these reviews for you so you can kind of check out some of the stuff that's being done locally around me. This one is the Redwood Empire American Whiskey, and this is done by Graton Distilling Company. They're based, I think, in Sonoma County, California, which is pretty far from me, but up in kind of central California to Northern California area. Way far north of me. I'm in Southern California, but I definitely wanted to bring you guys some local flavor on the channel, so that's why this whiskey is here. I'm very happy to be doing this review for you, so let's jump back in time and get to the review. All right, everybody, let's get into the whiskey. For the color, this is another dark one, dark amber for sure, kind of a copper hue to it. Legs, pretty weak on the legs on the glass here, very thin, not sticking very well. On the nose, not picking up too much on the nose right now. Let's see if we can coax something out of here. There's a slight fruitiness. Definitely some like bright green apple. It's really hard to get anything on the nose out of this guy. There's just a lot of very faint, light notes. Like I said, there's some like bright apple flavor in there. There's a hint of something darker, but I mean, I'm almost picking up like a wine-like character, like a white wine. I don't know. I'm really not able to get a whole lot on this nose, so the nose is pretty soft, pretty weak. Maybe this is a lower proof whiskey. I don't know. Anyways, let's stop trying to smell it and get into the taste. Cheers. So it's definitely got some flavors going on in the palate. I'm definitely going to need another sip because it's very interesting. I'm first hit with some lighter notes. Like I said, that bright apple, almost citrusy at first. It then turns mid-palate and really switches to a whole nother flavor profile. So before I start listing off these notes, let me get one more taste here. Like I said, the front starts light, fruity, citrus. Quickly converts into these kind of deeper notes, a little bit of caramel. This weird fruity, like kind of like a red licorice character. You're left with some lingering sweetness, a little vanilla. There's definitely some herbal qualities also once it switches to the back of the palate. I definitely feel like there's some rye in this recipe. You get a little bit of herbal notes, spice notes. In terms of the proof, it doesn't feel too high. I mean, I think we're maybe 90 or less. Doesn't give you a lot of burn on the palate. Doesn't give you a lot of heat in the mouth or coming down the chest at all. Nose is opening up a touch now. I can't tell if I'm smelling dill or if it's like that wine-like character. There's like this weird line between it. I'm wondering if maybe this is like a higher rye whiskey or a rye whiskey maybe. One more sip here. Yeah, flavor notes are about the same. Pick up a touch more heat on the palate, so I'm guessing we're right around 90-ish on this one. Maybe like 90, 92, somewhere in 94 or 5. Nah, I don't feel like it's as high as 95. I would say give or take right around 90, give or take a couple proof points. Either way, I could see. So we'll say 88 to 92, very tight range. Anyways. It's got some interesting flavors. It's a different whiskey for sure. It's not like anything I've tasted before. Like I said, I feel like it's maybe got some higher rye content, or maybe it's a lower rye whiskey. Got some interesting flavors. It's not knocking my socks off, but I think it's decent. I think there's a decent amount to dig through here. I'm enjoying drinking it. It drinks pretty easily. So I'm going to give this one a very solid, because it's good whiskey, I'm going to say it's an 80. Again, not knocking my socks off. Good, drinkable, and if at the right price, I'd be happy to buy it. So let's see what this is. Oh, and I didn't mention this at the beginning, but as you may notice, I don't have my water here with me to add to the whiskey. I kind of just decided I'm wasting your guys' time with the water. It almost never changes anything for me, or at least it never makes the whiskey better, or at least it's very rare. I can think of maybe 1 to 2 occasions in the entire time I've been doing these reviews that the water did something that let me talk to you more about what was going on in the whiskey. I feel like it was just adding an extra minute or 2 to the video. So for the time being, unless you guys really want it back, I'm just going to skip the water. I personally don't ever add water to my own whiskey. Not that there's anything wrong with you if that's what you like to do, but just not what I like to do. So for the time being, I think we're going to get rid of the water, and we're just going to keep pressing on and try to shorten these reviews up by like a minute. So I'm not wasting your guys' time, not giving you any more additional information that's going to help you make a decision about this whiskey. But anyways, on to what this is. This one's stuck. This is Redwood Empire American Whiskey Batch 2. All right. This is one I have not tried before, so let me go grab that bottle and we'll talk about this one a little bit more. All right, we just finished our review of the Redwood Empire American Whiskey. Now, to give you a little bit of information about this whiskey, this is batch 2. It says it was bottled on 7/18/2018. This is select lots of 11, 5, and 4-year-old bourbon blended with 2- and 3-year-old rye whiskey. It says it's ultra smooth and unrivaled character and complexity, or unrivaled complexity and character. I think that's a bold statement for any distillery to say, but there's lots of distilleries with good complexity and character, so hard to say unrivaled. But I did think this was a good whiskey. I think this is one of those whiskeys where it's kind of hard to do blind because it's a little bit different, and it's hard to review really unique whiskeys blind. I mean, it just makes it difficult because you really are getting something and you don't know what to make of it necessarily, and I think this kind of falls into that category. Just to give you a little bit more information that they provide on the back, this is a proprietary blend of rye and bourbon whiskeys, and it includes select barrels of house-distilled rye. So I guess the 2- and 3-year-old ryes are distilled by Graton. And they're blending it with, I would imagine, sourced bourbons. And I'd be really curious to know what the ratio of the bourbon to rye is, because I will say this is pretty rye forward, and it also doesn't have a lot of flavor characters. I mean, there is a youngness to it. You can definitely taste the young whiskey here. But it's not in such a bad way as some of these younger distilleries are doing, because I'm imagining that the blending of these older bourbons into the whiskey kind of took the edge off of that, because I've mentioned it before, but I really despise like harshly young whiskey. Like just straight 2-year-old whiskey, almost of any kind, I really don't like. There's a few exceptions out there for sure, but I really am not a big fan of young whiskey. So I think they've done a pretty good job of at least taking the edge off that young whiskey, because you don't sit here and drink this and be like, oh God, this is 1 year, 2-year-old whiskey. It tastes terrible. I definitely say there's certain characters there that feel young, but there's other characters that feel like there's some depth there. So they've at least done a good job of taking the edge off of the young characters that are in this whiskey. But I'm guessing there's the percentage of the aged whiskeys that are in here isn't incredibly high. Like they said there's 11-year-old, 5-year-old, and 4-year-old. I would imagine that there isn't very much of the 11-year-old whiskey in here. It's probably predominantly the 4- and 5-year-old bourbon at a reasonable percentage, and I would say most of it is the 2- and 3-year-old rye whiskey that they've made. So I'd love to find out what the ratio is. They say it's a proprietary blend on the bottle, which means they probably won't tell me if I ask. But maybe I can give them a ring and find out. So as for a value on this whiskey, at the big box stores near me, this whiskey goes for about $38 to $40, somewhere in that ballpark. So I would say it is on the high side of a younger whiskey, which is what it predominantly is. But I think it's a reasonable price to get into this at. I definitely say sub 40 is reasonable. If someone's charging you more than that, I think we're probably getting into a little bit overpriced. But I think that $40 range is reasonable for what you're getting here. You got some good flavors, good complexity. It's an interesting whiskey. Like I mentioned in the review, there's a lot going on here. It doesn't taste super young. It doesn't taste super old, but there's a lot of different flavor variants in between there, between the bourbons, the ryes, the different aged whiskeys. So they've done a good job of blending it. So I would definitely say give it a try. It's good whiskey, and if it's in your wheelhouse, I think $40 is a reasonable price. Anyways, this has definitely been popping up on shelves around me, and I'm not sure what their distribution is around the country, and if you guys are going to be able to get this anytime soon, but it definitely has been popping up around in my area, which is, again, pretty far from this distillery. They're not local to me, but they are in the state of California. But anyways, if you've had the opportunity to try Redwood Empire, let me know in the comments down below what you think. As always, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at blind_reviews. You can send me an email at blindwhiskeyreviews@gmail.com. And until next time, cheers.